The salt sitting in your kitchen right now has a secret, and it's not on the label. Today we're exposing what independent labs actually found inside 10 of the most popular salt brands in America. Lead, arsenic, aluminum, microplastics. From budget grocery brands to premium pink salts your doctor recommended by name, the results are not what anyone expected. And the brand that marketed itself hardest on purity? That one came back at over 110 times the lead threshold proposed for children's food. Stick with me until the end, because I'll reveal the 3 brands that actually came back clean. Number 10. Morton Coarse Kosher Salt. This is the one on every recipe website, the one professional chefs call out by name, the one in more American kitchens than probably any other salt on earth. Nobody reads the ingredient list because it's salt. One ingredient. What's there to read? Flip the container over. Right there in the ingredients. Yellow prussiative soda. That's the commercial name for sodium ferrocyanide, a synthetic compound containing cyanide groups bonded to iron. Food scientists are quick to clarify that the cyanide is tightly bound to the iron atom and doesn't release under normal cooking conditions. The European Food Safety Authority confirmed in 2018 that at approved levels it poses no safety concern. The EU caps it at 20 milligrams per kilogram. Morton carries it at concentrations between 10 and 100 parts per million, and roughly half of that molecular weight is cyanide. Under extreme temperatures, there's at least a theoretical possibility that bond could destabilize. But here's the part that matters when you're actually choosing a salt. Traditional salt producers have never used anti-caking agents. Artisan makers across Europe refuse them on principle. Their position is that salt should have exactly one ingredient, which is salt. And you can buy a kosher salt on the exact same shelf as Morton, right next to it, with 0 additives. The question isn't whether sodium ferrocyanide is dangerous at these levels. The question is why it's in there at all when a cleaner option is sitting 3 inches away. Number 9. Morton Iodized Table Salt. Same brand, completely different problem. That blue cylinder with the umbrella girl is one of the most recognized products in the country. People don't think of it as a choice. It's just what salt looks like. Pull up the ingredient list and you'll find dextrose. That's sugar. Corn-derived sugar added to your table salt. Morton adds it to stabilize the potassium iodide so the iodine doesn't oxidize and disappear on the shelf. The amount is small, around 40 milligrams per 100 grams, but most people buying this have no idea there's any sugar in their salt at all. That's not what most shoppers think they're paying for. There's also calcium silicate, a synthetic anti-caking compound that absorbs moisture and oil to keep the grains flowing freely. And then there's the processing. Crude salt dissolved in water, treated with chemicals to strip impurities, dried under high heat and pressure. What comes out is almost pure sodium chloride. Every trace mineral that naturally occurs in raw salt removed entirely. To be fair, the iodine fortification is a real benefit. Iodine deficiency is a documented public health concern and that matters, but when your basic table salt needs added sugar, a synthetic anti-caking agent, and heavy industrial refinement just to sit on a shelf, it's a considerably more processed product than the familiar packaging has ever suggested. Most people think they're buying salt. The label was never designed to change that assumption. Number 8. Badia Pink Himalayan Salt. This is where the concern shifts. We're moving from additives to something the labs flagged as significantly more serious. Badia is the affordable pink option. It's in grocery chains nationwide, and the whole pitch is the visual. That warm, rosy color, the suggestion of ancient mountain minerals. The feeling that you're choosing something purer and more natural than ordinary table salt. Independent laboratory testing commissioned by the consumer advocacy organization Mamovation, conducted in an EPA-certified lab, found Badia's pink salt contained 45 parts per billion of lead. Here's one number to hold on to. Scientists who drafted the Baby Food Safety Act proposed a lead action level of 5 parts per billion for children's food products. Badia tested at 27 times that level. The EPA's maximum contaminant limit for arsenic in drinking water is 10 parts per billion. The health-based goal for arsenic is 0. And here's what explains all of it. A 2020 peer-reviewed study published in the journal Foods analyzed 31 pink salt samples and found the same pattern across all of them. The darker the salt, the higher the heavy metal concentrations. The pink and red coloring comes from iron oxide and trace minerals naturally present in the rock. Those same minerals include lead, arsenic, and aluminum. The visual feature being sold as natural and beautiful is the same feature driving the contamination. You're paying for the color. The color is the problem, and that pattern is going to keep showing up as we go deeper into this list. Number 7. Shan Himalayan Salt, the imported option, found in ethnic grocery stores and increasingly on mainstream shelves. Independent testing found aluminum at 173.5 parts per million, arsenic at 42 parts per billion, and lead at 106.7 parts per billion. But the contamination numbers are only part of the issue here. Here's something almost nobody knows. Nearly all commercially sold Himalayan pink salt, every brand, every price point, every origin story, comes from the same single location, the Cura Salt Mine in Pakistan's Salt Range region. One mine. The overwhelming majority of every Himalayan salt brand sold anywhere in the world traces back there. Beyond that, there's virtually no publicly available information about which section of that deposit Shan salt actually comes from, what contaminant screening happens before it ships, or what quality standards apply during production. And US labeling law doesn't require any of that to be disclosed. The FDA doesn't require salt manufacturers to list trace mineral content, heavy metal levels, or processing methods. A brand can legally sell salt with over 100 parts per billion of lead and have no obligation to mention it anywhere on the label. The shopper standing in that aisle has no way to know. The packaging gives no indication. There's no mechanism to verify anything at the point of sale. That's not just a sham problem. It's an industry-wide transparency gap, and the next brand shows exactly what happens when a genuinely trusted household name sits on top of that same gap. Number 6. McCormick Fine Ground Pink Himalayan Salt. This one lands differently because of the name. With Badia or Shan, shoppers apply some natural skepticism because those brands are less familiar. McCormick is different. It's one of the most established names in the American spice aisle. When that label is on a product, most people assume the vetting already happened. Scrutiny drops. Trust is assumed before the bottle is even opened. Independent lab testing found McCormick's Fine Ground Pink Himalayan Salt contained 167.3 parts per million of aluminum, 44.6 parts per billion of lead. Then there's the language on the packaging itself. McCormick describes this product as mined in the depths of the Himalayan mountains. That phrase is doing a lot of work. It implies snow-capped peaks, remote terrain, distance from industry and pollution, purity through geography. The reality, nearly every gram of commercially available Himalayan salt, including McCormick's, traces back to the Cura mine in Punjab province, Pakistan. That mine sits roughly 300 kilometers from the actual Himalayan mountain range. NPR reported that Pakistan has formally objected to the Himalayan branding, with officials arguing the product should be attributed to its real country of origin. Some extraction at Cura uses gunpowder blasting. Environmental scientist Dr. Jennifer Brandon pointed to excavation and treatment methods as primary contamination contributors, noting the contamination in rock salt likely comes from how it's mined and handled, not from environmental pollution in the surrounding area. Consumers paid a premium for a trusted name and mountain imagery. The lab results suggest the name added cost. It didn't add purity, and this is where the label starts to feel misleading. If you've found this useful so far, a quick like helps this kind of investigation reach more people. Takes 1 second. Number 5. Trader Joe's Himalayan Pink Salt Crystals. This one is going to land hard for a specific group of people. Trader Joe's has earned something rare in grocery retail: genuine consumer trust. Their shoppers aren't passive. They read labels. They compare products. They make deliberate choices based on what they believe is cleaner and smarter. That's exactly the person who reaches for Himalayan salt instead of regular table salt. Someone who already did the thinking and made what they believed was the better call. Independent EPA-certified testing found Trader Joe's Himalayan Pink Salt Crystals contained 180.7 parts per billion of lead, 83 parts per million of aluminum, 33.7 parts per billion of arsenic, and 1.8 parts per billion of cadmium. That lead level is more than 36 times the threshold proposed in the Baby Food Safety Act for children's food products. Think about who's actually buying this. Health-conscious parents who chose Himalayan salt specifically because they believed it was the cleaner option. People seasoning family dinners with it every night. People who checked the label, saw no additives, and felt good about their choice. The FDA's position on lead is not ambiguous. No safe level of lead exposure has been identified, particularly for children and pregnant women. Cadmium, which appeared at 1.8 parts per billion, is a recognized carcinogen that accumulates specifically in kidney tissue over years of daily exposure. This isn't about one meal. It's about seasoning 3 meals a day, every day, for years, with a product no label ever flagged. And Trader Joe's, a brand that markets itself entirely on transparency and doing right by its customers, has never voluntarily published independent heavy metal testing results for this product. The people who trusted them most were the ones left without that information. Number 4. The Spice Lab Himalayan Salt. Premium grinders. Artisanal packaging. Price points well above standard grocery brands. The Spice Lab's central marketing claim is the 84 trace minerals naturally present in Himalayan salt. That number is positioned as the main reason to pay more. More minerals, more nutrition, a healthier, richer product than anything else on the shelf. Here's what that marketing never mentions. Those 84 trace minerals include lead. They include arsenic, aluminum, cadmium, and mercury. The mineral richness being sold as the product's defining health advantage is the exact same mineral profile that flags contamination in independent laboratory testing. The feature they're charging a premium for is the feature creating the problem. So the problem here isn't just the ingredient, it's the way the product is sold. Independent testing found the Spice Lab's Himalayan salt contained 242.8 parts per million of aluminum, among the highest readings of any retail salt product tested anywhere. Lead at 170.6 parts per billion, arsenic at 46.1 parts per billion. The 2020 peer-reviewed study in the journal Foods confirmed this pattern across 31 samples. Darker pink salts consistently carry higher heavy metal concentrations because the minerals creating the visual richness and the minerals raising health concerns are chemically inseparable. You can't have the premium look without the premium contamination. There's one more layer worth understanding. At a normal daily sodium intake of around 5 grams, the beneficial mineral content in pink salt is nutritionally insignificant. You'd need to consume sodium at levels that cause serious cardiovascular harm just to get meaningful quantities of magnesium or potassium from Himalayan salt alone. But the harmful heavy metals accumulate at any intake level. Any dose, any day. You're paying extra for contamination that's been packaged and marketed as a health benefit. Number 3. San Francisco Salt Company. Sherpa Pink Himalayan Salt. The artisanal option. The one that signals the buyer really thought this through. Sherpa Pink leans hard into hand-harvested sourcing, traditional extraction, and a premium price that reinforces the perception of superior quality. It's bought by serious home cooks and wellness-focused consumers who believe they made the most informed choice on the shelf. Independent laboratory testing found Sherpa Pink carried the single highest aluminum concentration of any salt product tested, 251.8 parts per million, lead at 133 parts per billion, arsenic at 39.4 parts per billion. Aluminum is worth pausing on here. The human body can process and excrete small amounts, but with chronic daily exposure, it accumulates in bone and brain tissue over time. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have examined potential connections between long-term dietary aluminum exposure and neurodegenerative conditions. Definitive causation in humans hasn't been established, but the research is ongoing and the concern isn't theoretical. Sherpa Pink is also used at real volume. This isn't a finishing salt sprinkled on a completed dish. It's marketed for everyday cooking, brining, batch preparation, and even bath soaks, meaning some consumers are absorbing it through skin contact on top of food exposure. Then there's this. A 2022 study published in Environmental Science and Pollution Research found that coarse Himalayan pink salt carried the highest microplastic load among the salt types examined. Toxicologist Drive Alex Labov identified treatment, crushing, and packaging as the primary stages where microplastic contamination enters salt, including from the packaging materials themselves. The hand-harvested, traditionally extracted language commanding the premium price may be describing the exact processes most likely to introduce contamination. Artisanal on the label does not mean cleaner in the lab. Number 2. Redmond Real Salt. This is the one that will hit hardest for a specific community, and the gap between what the brand promises and what the labs found is one of the widest in this entire investigation. Redmond Real Salt has a fiercely loyal following in the natural wellness world. Health influencers promote it constantly. Naturopathic practitioners recommend it by name. Functional medicine doctors stock it for their patients. The people buying this aren't passive shoppers. They're committed, research-minded consumers who made a deliberate decision to pay more for something they believed was genuinely cleaner. The foundation of that belief is Redmond's origin story. Their salt comes from an ancient underground seabed in Redmond, Utah, formed millions of years before modern industrial pollution existed, before factories, before chemicals. The implication is built directly into the brand. Ancient means untouched. Untouched means pure. EPA-certified laboratory analysis commissioned by Mammovation found Redmond Real Salt contained 252.2 parts per billion of lead, 229.1 parts per million of aluminum, 36.1 parts per billion of arsenic, and 7.3 parts per billion of cadmium. That cadmium figure was the highest of any salt product in the entire testing panel. And that wasn't the only round of testing. Separate independent analysis by Lead Safe Mama in July 2024 confirmed the findings. Lead at 290 parts per billion, arsenic at 91 parts per billion. 2 independent laboratories, 2 separate testing rounds, consistently elevated across both. When the results became public, Redmond disputed them and referenced internal testing they said showed lower numbers. Those internal results have never been released publicly for independent verification. The company challenged third-party findings while withholding the counter-evidence that would settle the question. That part matters when you're trying to decide whether to trust a brand. At up to 290 parts per billion of lead, roughly 58 times the 5 parts per billion action level proposed for children's food products, the ancient seabed that was supposed to mean untouched was carrying these metals long before any of us started cooking with it. The wellness community trusted this brand completely. 2 independent labs found a very different story. Number 1. Celtic Sea Salt by Selena Naturally. Here it is, the brand with the highest lead reading of any product tested in this entire investigation, and the one whose marketing most completely contradicts what the labs actually found. Celtic Sea Salt by Selena Naturally is not a fringe product. It's a fixture in health food stores and natural grocery chains across the country. Functional medicine doctors recommend it. Holistic nutritionists build meal plans around it. The packaging carries a doctor-recommended label. The salt is hand-harvested from the coast of Brittany in France, using centuries-old traditional Celtic methods. For years, the most health-conscious, label-reading, ingredient-researching consumers in America chose this brand because they genuinely believed it was the cleanest, safest option available. These are people who rejected cheaper alternatives specifically because they cared more. Independent EPA-certified testing, commissioned by Mammovation, found Celtic Sea Salt's fine ground variety contained 553.4 parts per billion of lead, the highest lead concentration of any salt product tested across the entire panel, across every brand, every variety, every price point examined. Arsenic at 82.2 parts per billion. Aluminum at 171.3 parts per million. The FDA's position on lead is clear. No safe level of lead exposure exists, particularly for children and pregnant women. The Baby Food Safety Act proposed an action level of 5 parts per billion for children's food products. Celtic Sea Salt tested at more than 110 times that threshold. Lead doesn't clear quickly. It accumulates in bones and organs over decades. The associated health effects: Cognitive decline, cardiovascular damage, kidney dysfunction may not become apparent until long after the exposure has been ongoing. That's what makes daily use contamination different from a one-time risk. In February 2025, a class action lawsuit was filed against the company in California federal court. Gonzalez versus Celtic Ocean International alleged that the fine ground and light gray varieties contained approximately 460 parts per billion of lead and 140 parts per billion of arsenic, and that the brand's doctor-recommended marketing was deceptive and misleading given those documented contamination levels. The lawsuit was voluntarily dismissed in April 2025. The plaintiff's individual claims were dropped with prejudice. The broader class claims were dismissed without prejudice, meaning they remain eligible to be refiled. Celtic Sea Salt responded by noting their lead levels fall below the International Codex Alimentarius ceiling of 2,000 parts per billion for food-grade salt. That's technically accurate, but that ceiling isn't a safety benchmark. It's the outer limit before salt is considered unsuitable for international food trade altogether. Being below 2,000 when you're testing at 553 is not reassurance. It's a measure of how high that ceiling is set. The salt marketed as the most health-conscious, most trusted, most doctor-endorsed option in the premium category tested as the single most contaminated product in this entire investigation. That is the central finding of everything we've covered today. The harder a brand marketed on purity, the worse it tended to perform when an independent lab actually measured what was inside. And that pattern is exactly why the next section matters. Now you know what to avoid. Here's the good news. 3 brands went through the same independent laboratory process and came back clean. No alarming lead, no concerning arsenic, no unnecessary additives. Consistent results across multiple testing rounds. These are the options the labs actually cleared, and the reasons they cleared them are just as important as the numbers themselves. Best option number 3. Maldon Sea Salt Flakes. The one chefs reach for. The distinctive black box. The pyramid-shaped flakes that dissolve on contact with food. Maldon has been produced in Essex, England since 1882 by the same family across 4 generations. Seawater from the Blackwater estuary, carefully filtered and slowly evaporated using traditional low-heat methods. Independent testing by Lead Safe Mama found Maldon non-detect for lead, cadmium, mercury, and arsenic. All 4 of the heavy metals that flagged on nearly every brand in this investigation. Maldon came back clean on every single one. The ingredient list is one word: sea salt. No anti-caking agents, no dextrose, no additives of any kind. The reason those results hold consistently comes down to the production setup. Everything happens within a single controlled facility in Essex. No international supply chain, no multiple sourcing handoffs, no points along the way where contamination can enter. The low-heat evaporation method avoids both the aggressive industrial refining that strips minerals from table salt and the mining processes that introduce heavy metals and microplastics into rock salts. Food scientists have also noted a practical benefit to the flake structure itself. Each thin pyramid dissolves quickly, delivering maximum flavor with less total sodium than the same volume of dense granular salt. Maldon costs more per ounce than most mass-market options, but independently verified clean results across 140 years of consistent production is a combination most brands on the avoid list can't come close to claiming. If you want a finishing salt you can actually trust, the testing removes the guesswork entirely. Best option number 2. Jacobsen Salt Co. Pure Kosher Sea Salt. The everyday kosher option with traceable American sourcing and verified clean results. Jacobsen harvests its pure kosher sea salt from Netarts Bay on the Oregon coast. Small batch production. Cold Pacific water, carefully filtered and slowly evaporated in a dedicated facility with quality controls at every stage. Independent EPA-certified lab testing found Jacobsen's pure kosher contained 1.7 parts per million of aluminum, 9.8 parts per billion of arsenic, and 0.5 parts per billion of cadmium. Lead came back below the minimum reporting threshold, effectively non-detect. Microplastic analysis found approximately 0.17 particles per teaspoon, a fraction of what commercial sea salts typically carry. One detail about Jacobsen that actually builds confidence rather than undermining it. Not every product in their lineup tested equally clean. Their Italian fine sea salt, sourced from a different overseas location, showed detectable lead levels in September 2024 testing. That inconsistency matters because it shows the company isn't selectively publishing only favorable data. The pure kosher variety tested clean because of specifically where and how it's produced, not because of cherry-picked results. That's a meaningful distinction. For anyone who wants an everyday cooking salt with American sourcing traceable to a single coastline and lab results that actually back up the claims, this is one of the most thoroughly verified options available. Best option number 1. Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt. No mountain imagery. No 84 mineral count. No doctor endorsements. No wellness influencer community built around it. Just a box on a grocery store shelf at a standard price. Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt tested non-detect for lead and microplastics across multiple independent testing rounds conducted by separate laboratories. Only trace cadmium appeared, at levels barely above the detection threshold. 0 lead, 0 arsenic, no concerning aluminum. The ingredient list is one word: salt. Diamond Crystal uses a patented evaporation process that produces a distinctive hollow pyramid-shaped crystal. That structure dissolves faster and more evenly than dense flat alternatives, adheres better to food surfaces during seasoning, and delivers more consistent flavor distribution. Professional chefs have preferred it for decades, mostly for the cooking performance. The lab results give it a second credential that has nothing to do with texture. Clean sourcing, controlled domestic production, no geological deposits carrying heavy metal contamination. No multi-country supply chain with transparency gaps at every handoff. It doesn't need an origin story to justify a premium. It doesn't charge one. Here's the pattern this whole investigation keeps returning to. The brands that charge the most and promise the most: ancient seabeds, Himalayan peaks, 84 minerals, doctor recommendations, hand-harvested tradition, delivered lead, arsenic, aluminum, and cadmium. The brand that promised nothing except salt delivered exactly that. Verified clean across multiple independent labs at a price anyone can afford. Color in your salt often signals contamination. Mineral-rich is frequently a reframe for heavy metal-rich at daily cooking doses. And the brands that invested most heavily in marketing their purity were, consistently, the ones that failed hardest when a lab measured what was actually inside. Diamond Crystal never told you a story. It just delivered clean results. After everything in this investigation, that turns out to be the most valuable thing any salt brand could offer. If there's a brand from the avoid list in someone's kitchen right now, send this to them. Drop a comment with which salt you found and what you're switching to. It helps other people make the same call.